Welcome to the Build Better Blueprint, the podcast where we discuss the foundations of real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Join Christian Cardamone as he shares insights, strategies, and stories that will empower you to level up your business, your lifestyle, and your impact. Let's build a better blueprint for success, starting now.
Welcome back to the Build Better Blueprint. This is Christian Cardamone. Thanks for tuning in today, folks. I've got a real treat for you. I've got the honor of speaking with a man who has played a major role in building Keller Williams into a global real estate powerhouse that it is today. He's also the co-founder of GoBundance Mastermind, the founder of Fambundance, and the co-author of The Tribe of Millionaires and The Miracle Morning for Parents and Families. He's a leader on a mission to help entrepreneurs and families thrive. So please welcome Mr. Mike McCarthy to the show. How are you, Mike?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And we were just talking offline. I'm a member of your community of GoBundance, and it's just been a life-changing experience for me. So hopefully after folks listen to this, they'll take the time and do some homework, learn about the community, and hopefully join. It's just made an impact in my life. So I just want to take this second before we kick off and kiss your butt for a second.
Well, a lot of people join, and the ones that lean in and, bring the work and not just expect things to happen magically, and they show up to the places they need to show up, then magic happens. That's how life works. Actually, you must be present to win. So way to show up.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Well said. And the irony is, man, this humongous world that we live in, I was referred by one of my college friends who I used to work for at a bar here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And once I got in, I realized that a kid I grew up with in upstate New York is in the group and has been in forever. Chris Benson, I'm sure you know him.
Yeah, I know Chris.
So I was like, dude, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing here? And then next thing you know, we've reconnected, which has been awesome. So yeah, it's just funny how the world works, man. It's a lot smaller than you think.
Yeah, that's really cool to have a childhood friend in GoBundance. It's a unique story, and it's a great place. Like, lots of connections that are magical happen when you bring people together that are just authentically who they are. And sometimes it's people that we didn't grow up with, and we're blazing a trail in a different direction to meet new people. But it's beautiful that it brought you sort of back to yourself, to your home, your upbringing, and you guys could kind of look and be like, oh yeah, we both went through this journey called life, and we both found GoBundance. How cool is that? That's great.
Yeah, man.
Chris is a great guy. He stayed at my mountain house with his kids like a year ago or so, and got to enjoy the slopes. And yeah, we have a lot in common.
Yeah, it's the first time I saw him in like 30 years was like, it's Snowbird. I'm like, dude. He looks exactly the same. I don't know. Anyway, this isn't the Chris Benson show, but shout out to Chris if he listens to this. So he's a great dude. So I want to start. I mean, you've got like such an impressive resume. Between the real estate, the mastermind community, the author. We don't have enough time to dig into all of it. But I'm also a broker at Keller Williams here in Wilmington at Keller Williams Innovate, and have been with them for about 8 years. Love the firm. I'm curious. Our firm has had like exponential growth here under the leadership of Manda Price and Lad Gasparovic. It was kind of like a really teeny little firm here when it first kind of popped up, and then boom, like once Manda got here, things really hit a heavy trajectory. And I'm curious, like, what do you think are the key ingredients that you used or were working in your favor when you grew your Pennsylvania portfolio as big as it is with all the agents to scale that level of people and maintain, not have the attrition that this industry generally has, but also more importantly, maintain the culture? What do you say that success is attributed to?
Yeah, I mean, it's, obviously at the brokerage level, I know Amanda and Lad, and I know the work they do. In the Pennsylvania region, my job is to go out and with my team and find the Lads and the Amandas and get them going and get them fired up about their office and about using the potential of the Keller Williams model to grow a business, because it works. Like, there's parts of the business model and ways of doing things in Keller Williams that were revolutionary and still are to this day. Agents making decisions, capping commissions, being able to share in the profits of the office. Like, these things are sort of features that you almost have to run a brokerage today. And when we started, they weren't features or even offers that anyone else had. So we went and found the people who aligned with the values that are embedded in who Keller Williams is as an organization. And it's that we're very learning based. We do the best in world-class education for agents leadership. I often say growing up as a young man for me in Keller Williams was all about, it felt like I was getting an MBA in business, like the amount of business training that I got, but it was practical and it was real life training, that it's exceptional. But I think that what a company does is they nail what Amanda and Ladd have done there, is that they nail bringing an energy and a sense of productivity that drives not only their performance as an office, but helps to set the pace and drive performance of every agent in the office. And I think that's probably what they do. What I've done is try to align with the right people and find great people who are already fired up about profit share and education at a high level and all of the things that Keller Williams stands for. And they're already excited about those things and their talent. They can kick ass in whatever the role is. Then you just set a big vision and you find the right people, and you've got to get them then moving in a direction as a team. But with Ladd and Amanda, I know you mentioned them and I happen to know them, but they make a great team. Like together, individually, I saw their careers because I knew them before they linked up. And then I got to see what it looked like, and what the results are of how they've shown up, not only for their partnership, but how much stronger they are. 1 + 1 kind of equals 11 in that situation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man. And we're a small market too. So to see them make the impact that they did, I've always just said, I enjoy being part of a winning team. And so I've been with a couple firms over my career, but I've been here for a while, and this is probably home for a long time. When I got here, it was the first time I had been exposed to collaboration and talking to and coaching, honestly. So I got a MAPS coach, and it's when I, had my first calls, and these guys are they're like me on steroids pretty much with regard to their business. And then they just open the playbook, and it's this is how you do it. Instead of everyone always, they say collaboration happens at the top, competition happens at the bottom. And that was so true for me when I got in that environment, almost similar to GoBundance. When I got there, it seemed like everybody is just open the kimono for lack of better description, just to show you what they're doing, what's working. And instead of trying to clamor, it's like an abundance mindset, and I think it is actually a mindset that people need to have in order to be able to receive that.
Yeah. I mean, it's set in the culture of GoBundance that we're there to serve and to be authentic about what's going on. And I think that really creates a place for us to focus on the transformations that we need to make happen. And I think in a tribe like GoBundance, you get an energy of support and guys collaborating that is not a mistake. That's just how we as the leaders of the firm and the tribe have always operated, is in a similar sense of generosity and putting forth that there's more value and we're giving more than we're taking. And I think when you do that and you create the level of transparency and such that we've done, and you can see some of those themes running through Keller Williams, though, if you really trace David and I's roots back to, the out of the four elders, David and I had both scaled up pretty large organizations within Keller Williams. David more so than I, if you count all the offices that he owns. But to do that, he had to be somebody who was super motivated and had the right people around him and made sure that he was opening the door to collaboration. And we collaborated as regional leaders in a way that was beautiful in the beginning, because we were building something that we knew was going to be the number one real estate company in the world, because we believed it in our hearts, but no one else believed us. And when you're looking at being 5th, 6th, 8th, when I started, we were the 10th largest real estate company. And just to watch us go from 9th to 8th, and climb the ladder, that's quite a bonding experience. But it's through those formative years of David and I seeing what's possible, to where we've just let the vision of GoBundance sort of loose and not contained by any one of us. We want the talent of the whole tribe to be the level that we rise to. It's just, luckily for us, kept it a beautiful, very clean container for a lot of good to happen, a lot of good to spill out into the world from what we're doing there.
Yeah, that's so well said, man. And it's cool because Keller Williams has done a great job of that with regard to real estate industry specific, but GoBundance kind of reading from the same sheet of music kind of does it on a full broad spectrum of your life example. Obviously they have some similarities just with regard to culture, but GoBundance is more of like a whole life approach, with the 5 pillars. And it's cool to see that expand. I'm curious, what inspired you to get involved, for those of you who don't know, with GoBundance, and tell me about the impact it's had on your life and on some of the members that you could speak to.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, the beautiful thing about my relationship with David Osborne is that my father introduced me to him when I was just getting into the business and deciding if I could be somebody who is a top player in this space of building regions and recruiting agents, for lack of a better term, of getting people to join Keller Williams and join our movement. And my dad introduced me to David and said, you should get to know this guy. He's very successful in real estate, and he's done what you're trying to do. His mom was a top agent and one of the first agents with Keller Williams, and he took an opportunity similar to what you have and turned it into something. And I think my dad sensed that David was a great mentor for me, because in some ways I thought I'd outgrown my dad's mentorship, and I still had a lot to learn from him, but in my own underdeveloped 23-year-old, 22-year-old mind, I thought I kind of knew it all. And so David mentored me, and he's 10 to 11 years older than me, depending on the time of year. And he's always setting the pace in growth in some area, whether it's business or in his personal life or in his relationships or in how he shows up to give back to a community. So I got to have David's mentorship, and he is really what in my mind, helped me to understand the power of like accountability, somebody telling you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. Cause David would do that when I was younger. We would get in fights like I was his little brother. And we would argue, but he'd always tell me what I needed to hear. And I grew a lot from it. And when I got to meet Pat and Tim and start hanging out with them, like my passion for GoBundance really boiled over to a point where in 2015, I said, hey, this tribe has been amazing. It's served me for the last 3 years, like in ways I can't even imagine. And we needed a CEO at that time to take the reins. And so I had just stepped out of the regional director position, was in a regional owner position with a little more freedom with Keller Williams, and made the jump to be the CEO. And it was inspired by the single thought of, hey, don't you want GoBundance to be there and do what it did for you to other people? Because if you don't step in right now, it's just going to be this neat little club that hangs out and does their thing, and it'll be great. It'll be 100 or so people, but it won't be organized. It won't be about transformation. It won't have a soul. It won't have an identity. And so I felt like I could be the one who would help steward part of that soul and that identity as a business, moving from like a group of friends to who are we as an organization. And so that inspired me, the concept of how do we bring people together and just change their lives. So we would look at everything we did through that lens. Like, we're not a social club. We do like to socialize. We like to have fun. We're not an adventure club because we're not just doing adventure. What we are is we're sort of an adventure club for people that want transformation in areas of their life. And I think like that's the vein that we nailed. And if you look at where's the crossover between all 4 elders, it's in those places. We have very aligned values like goal setting, big life, accountability, no bullshit, show up and be who you are authentically.
Yeah.
But then in every other way, we're vastly different human beings, the 4 owners. So it's been fun to watch other people have the experience of dropping 100 pounds, and being in the tribe and all of a sudden realizing they hadn't focused on their weight. And then the next meeting they come to, they've dropped 80, 100 pounds. I've seen that happen at least 5 to 10 times in the tribe. And I know those are just the ones you hear about. Guys whose marriages have been saved by going on a couples retreat and being able to face or have the conversations through guides and facilitators that they wouldn't have had otherwise with their spouse. Even families that have come to Fambundance and they form their values, their visions, their rhythms as a family, and their family gets to experience a taste of GoBundance. Like we see huge relationship and family cultures that begin to thrive because of Fambundance. So we see all kinds of incredible transformations. Like there's lots of guys who've done a lot of business deals and made a lot of money. There's also a bunch of guys who did a bunch of business deals and lost a lot of money, because that's the nature of business and doing deals. We're not an investment group. We're not a place where you should go if you're looking to find a bunch of lead flow on investments that are vetted, because there is no such thing. You need to go vet your own deals no matter what. No one's going to vet them like you would, and we don't want to be in that position. But a lot of guys come in and they find partners or strategic partners, or even just the advice they needed to take their business from 1 million to 3 million in revenue. Like just that one nugget of advice or support can come in pretty short order if you show up to the events. You get on get in a GoPod, get your family or your wife or your spouse involved in GoBundance for Fambundance and those other side organizations that we have that are family focused. But I think if you follow that recipe, we see like incredible transformations in people. People have never given away like more than $1,000 starting to give away 100,000 a year, like because they realize, oh, I've been using this scarcity mindset to accumulate all this money. What if I was more generous with it, given that now I can afford it, and pushing that muscle forward of being more of a giver in their community. But yeah, we see tons of transformations like that blow our mind, and we get letters and emails and testimonials of people saying things. So, and that's only what we're hearing. So it's nice when we get to see those, because we know in a group of this size, there's stuff happening and connections being made and things that are unfolding that we don't even know about. So it's pretty exciting to think about the magic that happens within those 900 souls connecting through the energy of abundance.
Yeah, man, I thought the name was weird when I first heard it, and now it makes a lot more sense. But I think
it's
for
still
me,
weird.
One of the things that really was like big for me was, like you mentioned before, like the genuine contribution. I was at an event locally, like maybe 3-4 months ago, and just the group of guys that I was talking to about the amount of money I give to charity every year. I mean, dude, they abused me like verbally, and it hit home big time, and it really resonated with me because I've been very blessed. I do very well, and what I've been giving back, what I thought was good, just isn't a drop in the bucket compared to what I should be doing, to what some other guys are doing. That's been one of the biggest inspirational things for me. And so I set a goal this year to give away a certain dollar amount that would have scared the crap out of me a couple of years ago. And it's just been eye-opening for that. And then the biggest thing that really I've taken away that I want, our listeners to learn a little bit more about is Fambundance, because I've got a 3-year-old daughter, and I have a baby boy coming literally within the next week or two, probably. Thank you. So what I've seen with regard to that, like in my opinion, again, I've been very blessed and fortunate. I've worked very hard, but like making money is easy. It's the family element and the personal element. Those are the things where I think a lot of guys or just people in general, they need help. And it's the toughest thing to ask for when you're a middle-aged person, and the ability to like open up to somebody and to have a conversation about like some real shit that's going on in your life. Everybody needs that, but very few people actually take the opportunity to go. You have to seek it out. And so I want you to just elaborate on like what Fambundance is, because I think that's something important, and you wrote the Miracle Morning for Parents and Families. Tell us a little bit about that, and like what some of the elements of that are that you apply in your life.
Yeah, I mean, if there was like one underlying mission or purpose that I'm on in my life that really encompasses all the different things, the real estate, the GoBundance, the community building, the education, my passion for that, and leading and transforming people, like the culmination of it all really boils down to Fambundance for me. And that's where our legacy is. So, when I took over as CEO, I immediately realized that I had just given up a bunch of freedom that I had just gained, like all in a week's time. Like, you're free, let's take a job.
Yeah.
And then I looked and I had kids that were, like, I think, let's see, yeah, would have been like 4 and 8 at the time. And I thought, oh my God, I just gave away all that time that I'd created that was supposed to be for my family. I just gave it back to myself to go be the CEO of this business and run it. And then I thought, well, what if me taking on this role in GoBundance is exactly what my family needs to see me do, and I just need to do it in a way where I don't let it take away from my family. In fact, what if it could enhance my family? What if GoBundance could be a place for families to come and have more tools and resources and be better at supporting one another? And so we started doing Fambundance events, not having a clue what we were doing, other than we're going to bring families together and we're going to talk about stuff that families normally wouldn't talk about, that they need to talk about. Because to our point earlier, that's where the magic of authenticity and transparency leads to you being able to create a transformation. So we would have families talk about what are their goals and how can they support each other in their goals. And we would have them talk about their values and determine what their shared family values were. So early on, we were doing that kind of work, albeit it was much sloppier early on and it was less organized. And today we kind of have a three-pronged model where you're either creating, reviewing, or rating yourself and your family on three areas. What are our values individually and collectively? What are our visions, our goals as individuals and our family, and our future vision for our family? What's our end game? And then three is our rhythms. Who are we day in, day out, week in, week out? How do we treat each other? How do we communicate? How do we show appreciation for one another? How do we meet and make sure that we have sacred family time? And how do we celebrate each other when it's time to celebrate, a birthday or a holiday? What are those traditions or rhythms is what we would call them. And so you get to create those in a space where you're having fun at an event, and we bring in magicians that do a little show, and then we do a little magic trick over here with having you work on your family. The kids think it's fun. That's the beautiful part, is we make it so fun at these events that kids want to come back. Kids are begging their parents to take them back. We have some testimonials we're posting soon of some kids who actually said, if you take us back this summer to Fambundance, we'll help pay for it with our own money.
I love it.
Which, is like the greatest testimonial you could get. But, we play games. We have a talent show. We have the Family Olympics where you're paired with three other families in your own. And we hand out as prizes for these games fake $100 bills. So the kids are going ape shit for helping their team to win the whole time. And the bills look real enough to where it gives them a little excitement. But right now it's events, it's a model. There's intellectual property. Some of it is related to the work we did in the Miracle Morning for Parents and Families. We have a playbook that you can get. It has an exercise in there for shared values, an exercise for your family's future vision, and it has an exercise in there that's how to host and operate a weekly family meeting, which is something we recommend as one of the key rhythms that a family should do. But I wanted to do all of this in the beginning just to make sure I didn't leave my family behind. But then I realized that all entrepreneurs are leaving their families behind, actually, and they have to for some amount of time. You can't just be with your family 24/7. That's not realistic. But when we get to the place of we're using the number of hours we work as a badge of honor and we're not present for the moments that matter most at home, that's where a shift needs to happen. And I find a lot of entrepreneurs at a high level, they give up on some aspects of their family life being perfect, or their intimate relationship is suffering, or their health is way out of whack, or they haven't given back an amount of money that is commensurate with how much net worth or income they are. So everybody has their thing. And I think we've just developed a place where it's safe to come and bring those challenges like in a community, and then have that community hold you in that and help heal you, not just by giving you the right solution, but actually just sometimes listening, and someone saying what their biggest issue is or challenge is healing in it of itself. And then when you get the love and support and the follow-up and the accountability and some wisdom all mixed into one, then it's really beautiful. But we were only doing that and focused on doing that for men and then our women's group. And it's recently in the last year that I've dove back in to rebuild and make Fambundance what we know it's capable of being. And so I've put a tremendous amount of time and energy into the trips we're doing this year. We have one to Copper Mountain this summer, 25 families coming to that. We have 12 families going to Nepal to visit the orphanage and do some charity work. Mm-hmm. And that'll be really a magical experience. And then we have our winter event. We're hoping to get 35 families at the Breckenridge Winter GoBundance annual event. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but Fambundance is my favorite part of what we do, because when you see the kids get hooked into setting goals and curating their friend group with a little more intention, and you know that they're, you know, maybe making lifelong buddies just like you have inside of the mastermind group that you're in, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
What do you think is something that you would tell someone like me who's got a young family? You know, I've been married for 5 years now. We've been together longer. I have a 3-year-old daughter, like I said, and soon to be baby boy. If the kids aren't old enough, we've been working on this exercise that you have in the book, and it's not easy, because you really have to kind of ask yourself some questions. And I've struggled with trying to not treat my family like a business, but organizationally, I think it kind of is a good approach, because there's certain things that you just have to do to have it be successful on all fronts. So what's some advice you might give to somebody who's not familiar with how deep this exercise can go to help maybe improve things at home and take it a little more seriously?
Yeah. And which exercise specifically are you talking about? Just having a family meeting, or which part are you working on?
Yeah, we talked about having a family meeting and working on that, like kind of the cadence and then what the theme was going to be. And since at this point in our life, you know, I'm responsible for taking care of the family and I'm leading, and that's kind of the dichotomy of our relationship by design. You know, I don't want to be the only one making all the decisions and doing everything, because I want support on that. But the roles that we've decided to take respectively, we're in our lanes, you know, so it's working. But it's obviously something that needs continual improvement. As the children get older, they can participate more. And I'm really looking forward to that, because my parents laid out such great groundwork for us. I'm so blessed. They just always were setting a great example and very open. And we had a lot of discussions about growth and development and how bright the future is and how just about anything is within reach. And those seeds were planted very early, and I couldn't be more grateful to them for that. It didn't cost $1. And so I want to make sure that we impart that on our children as well.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, number one is you have a huge jump on it. Like, you've got a 3-year-old, you know, usually kids can't fully participate until they're more like 5 years old. But I love that you're trying to include them. We always coach people that, like, just because they don't give you great answers doesn't mean you stop asking. And I think the more that they know that you want to include them in the family decisions and you want to include them in how you operate as a family. And yes, it should be a little bit like a business, but here's the big difference. In this business, you have shareholders that you need to keep happy, and that's your whole family. So if you come in and you implement a business model that they don't like, that would be reflective in, you know, the shareholders' views of how you're operating. And it would show up in the numbers too, like how many actual moments are we connecting, or if there were KPIs for this family stuff, you know, they would improve. So, and I would argue that even in your team environment, you'll learn that this is the right approach to lead in today's world, is instead of being the wizard with all of the answers, you know, or you want to find a way to go from being the sage on the stage to the guide on the side as any leader. Meaning, if you're supposed to have all the answers and you're the guru and everyone's looking to you, like, your job as a leader just got infinitely harder. Your best path forward is to be not the one with all the answers, but all the great questions that help people to self-discover their own answers. And so, I think that as a whole, there's something called the exchange approach, and there's something called appreciative inquiry. And I think everything that we work on in Fambundance is about including the whole family's voice and energy in leading that human system. So whether that's your team at work or a church group or a board for a charity, the idea is that we love to be a part of things, especially if we have some authorship inside of what's being done, then we'll feel a deep sense of ownership. So authorship is ownership is something you've probably heard before. So my advice to you would be, number one is don't feel like you have to have the whole entire plane built just because you're in the air already. I can tell that you want to have this stuff really dialed in, and I'm getting the sense that maybe if you keep using that strategy, you might be met with resistance at some point along the line. I'm not saying from who or anything or where, but I think just knowing that the more you're the dictator of it, or you're the one that's saying this is what we need to do, and if it's too much, then you'll lose them as well. So just be careful you don't try to do too much too fast. Normally I would be like, yeah, go for it, but I just get the sense that you're really already further ahead than you think you are, and it's going to evolve. So right now the values and the family meetings, they're more about you just being aligned with your wife and what makes you feel good. What does she need to hear every single week to feel really good during the meeting? That way, if she's resistant to the meetings, but she knows that there's a part of the meeting where she shows up and she gets her needs met, and it's something that helps her, then this is where you have to go off script and not follow my family meeting recipe, but you have to author one with her and co-create a family meeting that works for her and gets you guys on the same page, helps her feel supported and loved, and gets her to be able to feel safe about expressing some things. Because sometimes if we schedule the talks when we talk about serious stuff too, it's relieving in a way. Like, and if you can show up and truly create a safe space for her to say, hey, I don't feel supported enough, or which is a common feeling for when you have young kids. If you're the mom who's staying at home is what I gather, and that's the lane she's in, I think is what you're alluding to. It, like, no matter how much you do to support her, there's going to be times when you won't be able to be there, and it's going to be stressful for her. So how can you create a place where she can really express that? And then the other thing, since you're relating it back to the book, The Miracle Morning for Parents and Families, is, are you both helping to create the space for each other to do the miracle morning? Because you might not be able to do it together. You might not be able to do it first thing in the morning. You might not, but I don't want you to miss the part where you should be journaling, reading, meditating, exercising, taking care of yourself in general, visualizing the future you want, doing the steps of the savers. And then as your kids get older, giving them a creative way to do a miracle morning, so that your wife, can do it, her own miracle morning, and get them to do their own miracle morning. That's one of the things that we teach in those books, is how do you do it in the environment where people would assume that you just give up on the miracle morning because you don't have enough sleep to justify it. But it's about doing the practices of developing yourself and creating the space. It could look different for you than for your wife. Your wife might just want time to read and reflect and relax, and you might want to really carve out a big portion of yours being exercise or moving your body or whatever it might look like. But yeah, I really appreciate that you're already thinking through how to involve your kids, and how to run your family like a business without it feeling like a business, right? That's something that
I
I
think
gathered you're trying to get at.
that's the way to do it, and it's well said, because the structure and the mechanics of an institution or a business, they work well for a reason, but you don't want to, it's your family. You don't want to cheapen it to make it feel like it is a business. So I think what I'm hearing is just initiating like genuine buy-in from your family, and then you just make it your own over a period of time, because there is no, there's guardrails, but everyone's got to run their own race. And so all we can do is kind of seek the best advice and roadmap, and then do what works for us individually.
Yeah, keep it simple. Don't try to do too much too fast. Implement it one piece at a time versus the whole business model. Get the values done and understand what you value, then meet weekly and talk about what our goals are, and then start to add to that meeting every week, like, well, what do we want to talk about that serves us or serves each other and helps us to be more aligned. But yeah, I think that would be like the quick summary of how to tackle what you're looking to get done with your family. But I have a lot of respect for you wanting to tackle that. And the earlier you do it and the better you get at it, the more these tools will work in your benefit and for your favor.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you. The dividends of business is money, but the dividends of this type of work far outweighs currency, in my opinion. It's the family. So what do you listen to and read, and who do you follow to shape your mindset and strategy right now? If you're leading this organization, you're surrounded by so many great mentors, but some of them are real estate, some of them are, everyone's got different lanes that offer so much. How do you sort through all that and find inspiration?
I think I'm generally always listening to some type of autobiography, because I think people's lives, especially when they share them in a super open and transparent way, like their life is like a teaching. If you can really understand what they've gone through, and you'll never fully be able to experience it, obviously, but if you can wrap your head around what it was like to be that person, I think you can gain strength from their story. And you can also get the cautionary tales of, the mistakes they've made, and, realize that, number one, I'm somebody who makes mistakes and will make mistakes, and yet they push past those. And also adversity when it hits, when it's not a mistake, it's something that you have to just face in life, which the older you get, the more you have responsibilities like that. So I find a lot of comfort in other people's authentically shared stories. And then, I'm always listening to some type of book that helps me to think about healing the deeper parts of myself that are still there. Right now I have a thing I'm working on where I'm trying to catch myself if I'm not speaking to myself in a very kind and gentle way. Like if I'm coming down on myself or beating myself up, I've been trying to really listen to and shift that voice. And that just comes from, a lot of different readings that I've done. The book that I go to the most is called The Tools, and there's actually a Netflix special called Stutz, I believe it's called, but it's Jonah Hill's therapist, and he walks you through like some basic kind of tools of ways to understand that we're sort of wired for negativity unless we have a gratitude practice, and that we tend to build up fears that are irrational, and there's a way to visualize those and step through them. But books like that are books that I really like, where they're getting deep into sort of like your psyche of who you are and why you do the things that you do. So I also am a constant consumer of everything family legacy. Entrusted is a really incredible book by David R. York. Another great one is The Intentional Legacy by David McAlvany. These are both in my opinion, some of the best reads for legacy and family culture that you can get into. And there's lots of works and ideas and systems in that area. So I spend a lot of time sort of benchmarking and trying to find what other organizations do to bring out the best of a family and create family constitutions, legacy letters, estate plans that match with all of that is kind of the stuff that I like to geek out to.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. And I wish we had more time, because I really enjoyed your discussion with Matt King, and you were talking about the family constitution. And I know legacy is like a really important thing to you. It seems like people are either very, very much into it or very much not, depending on so many different beliefs, whatever. But that was a great discussion. So, folks at home can listen to that. The interview with Matt King, I enjoyed that. So tell the folks where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can learn about GoBundance and Fambundance and keep up with you.
Yeah, so we've got GoBundance.com for anyone who's interested in our men's programs and trips. There is a GoBundance Women that's linked for high-powered entrepreneurial women. It's linked on our website as well. And then Fambundance.com has some information about our family programs. And we're building quite a few of those out over the next year or so. They're just for members only, but in the future, there'll be ways for non-members to access some of that content. And then, if anyone wants to just follow me on Instagram, it's Go Mike McCarthy.
Awesome, man. Well, folks, you heard it here first. That's Mr. Mike McCarthy. We really appreciate you tuning in today. And Mike, I can't thank you enough for this discussion. There's a lot to unpack here, and hopefully we can do it again soon. Love to follow along with Fambundance and see that thrive to the level that GoBundance has. I think its best days are yet to come, man. So I really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
That's it, folks. That's our show. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to our channel so you are up to date with the latest episodes. Feel free to share with your friends and keep up the great work. You are on the right path. See you at the top.